In this video, we will show you how to replace your transmission oil pan on this Lincoln Navigator. This will be located on the bottom of your transmission under the vehicle. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. Make your way under the hood to the transmission dipstick. We'll grab onto that and lift it up. Looking at the top of the dipstick, you can tell exactly what type of fluid to use. Mercon. Now we can go ahead and pull this right out of here, and we're going to give the fluid a quick inspection. Now looking at the fluid on a clean rag, I can tell that it does not look like it's burnt and there's no metal fragments. That's a good sign. Let's set this dipstick aside and carefully make our way underneath the vehicle. Now from underneath the vehicle, find your transmission pan. You'll find on the lower aspect of it, you have a 13mm headed drain plug. We're going to remove this and drain all of the fluid out of the transmission, so make sure you have hand and eye protection and a collection bucket under the area. On our application, the drain plug is stripped inside the pan, so we're going to carefully drill a small hole inside of the pan. When you do this, you need to be extremely careful because there is internals to the transmission and you don't want to damage them. For this, I'll use a step bit, so as I go in, I'll be sure that I only go so far and I'm not going to damage anything. But in most instances, you should be able to remove the drain plug. While that's draining, let's make our way over to our neutral safety switch. You'll find that the electrical connector for this crosses right underneath the edge of your transmission oil pan. Disconnect the electrical connector. On this, you'll find that you have a little squeeze tab you can press in and then gently pull it off of the neutral safety switch. Give it a quick inspection for corrosion and set that aside. Once your transmission pan is fully drained, reinstall the drain plug. On ours, I had to poke a hole, so I'm going to have a little bit of a drip here. Now we can continue on to our 20 10mm headed mounting bolts that make their way all the way around the transmission pan. Typically when I'm removing the pan, I like to leave at least one bolt on either side of the pan. I'll hold off on this one and continue making my way around. At this point, we only have 2 more mounting bolts holding this in place. So as I remove these, we're going to make sure that we're holding onto the transmission pan so it does not fall down and potentially hurt us. Remove your transmission pan. There it is, friends. Whenever you're replacing your transmission pan, it's important to make sure that you replace the gasket at the same time. We'll peel this out of here and set that aside. The next thing that we're going to do is remove the magnets from inside of our original transmission pan and transfer them over to the brand new pan. It's important to take note of the location, so when you put them into the new pan, they're in the exact same spot. You can use a small screwdriver or a pick and carefully get underneath these. We'll wipe this off and make sure that there isn't any large chunks of metal on this. If you have any large chunks of metal on either of the magnets, that means you have a transmission issue. Now, if you are going to be replacing the filter on this at the same time, you could carefully grab onto this and give it a little tug and pull it down. You'll find that it goes up into the transmission along the passenger side front here. So keep in mind, fluid will come out of this area. Now, before we get our pan over here with the new gasket, it's important to make sure you clean down the transmission where the pan and gasket will sit. We'll wipe this down and give it a close inspection to make sure that there's no damage. Now let's put the new gasket on the pan. Once you have that properly aligned, we can put this up to the transmission. Now, once you feel as though you have it in the proper positioning, start in each of your mounting bolts. Do not tighten any of them until you have each one of them started. Now that I have each of them started, and I'm sure that my gasket is properly placed, I'll continue on by snugging each of my mounting bolts. After I've made my way around, I'm going to torque them to 12 foot-pounds. Once we have those torqued, continue on to your 12mm headed drain plug. Torque that to 18 foot-pounds. Now that that pan is fully torqued, we'll continue on to our neutral safety switch. Connect that in. Listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's completely secured. Now before you get out from underneath the vehicle, make sure to clean your mess. Now we can make our way back over to the passenger side of the engine and locate the transmission dipstick tube. Install a funnel. We'll continue on by adding the Mercon fluid to the funnel. Typically for this, you should use approximately 6 quarts of transmission fluid in the transmission. That's where we'll start. We'll start up the vehicle, let it run up to operating temperature while running it through the gears, and then we'll double check that fluid level. Add as needed. Remove your funnel and reinstall the dipstick. At this point, we'll continue on to starting the vehicle. We're going to make sure that we run it through all the gears, starting at park, down to reverse, neutral, drive, all the way down to first. Once you've made it there, continue on back up each step all the way to the park position. Do this several times. Once you've done it at least 3 times, put it back in park and let it sit on a nice flat level surface and continue idling until it gets up to normal operating temperature. Now that the vehicle's up to normal operating temperature, we'll go ahead and remove that dipstick, give it a quick wipe, and recheck the level. As you can tell looking at the chart on the dipstick, we're up inside the hot range and we're in the middle of the dots. That's exactly where you need to be. If you're anywhere lower than this, add a little bit. If you're above it, you have to make your way underneath the vehicle and drain out some fluid. This looks perfect. Reinstall the dipstick. Okay friends, we showed you how to install your transmission pan. At this point, go ahead and close the hood and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.